All right. Welcome to the Side Action, episode 5 of season 4. My name is Jim Weglars, aka Wegs. You can follow me at Wegspool on Twitter and Instagram.
And I'm Steve Roberts, aka Action. You can follow me on Twitter at 31S Roberts.
Follow the podcast at Side Action Pod on Twitter. So, Action, obviously, we'll talk about our outing last week. Wasn't too good in the Circa contest, but how was the rest of your weekend?
It was a nice weekend. We went to Purdue for a little college gathering with a bunch of buddies of mine, and we went down Friday night, checked out some of the hot spots in town, and then went to tailgate all day Saturday and scored some passes from my sister's boyfriend Nate to the end zone party, which is just like a big beer patio right in the end zone. Thankfully, because there was very little scoring in the Purdue-Illinois game, we were able to drink our way through it.
I saw that game. That was a rough one.
Yeah. How was your weekend?
Well, as you know, I was sequestered, quarantined over the weekend, so I caught up on all my shows, watched a ton of everything, and football as well, which obviously was tragic on Sunday. I got ridiculed for my volleyball people that I missed the big end of year barbecue on Sunday, but what are you going to do? I'm trying to protect the public good. Just so everybody knows, COVID negative. Again, I'm 3 for 3. So take that, COVID. Boom. But at least, not our picks aside, I did well. I unlocked the teaser again, Action. I started using teasers again, went back to my first year where I did very well. Started using teasers again, went 2-0 on the teasers and got the money line bet with Minnesota, our lone pick on our contest. So felt pretty good about the weekend. Obviously, I'll make it up to my friends. The best chiropractor in Indiana, Luke. I told him I'd give him a shout out, otherwise I won't talk to him anymore. But the other thing, Ashton, is that we're taping right now on Friday, October 1st. So happy October, Action. I had 3 people reach out to me last night, like, "Where's the podcast? Where's the podcast?" I'm like, that's great. I'm glad our listenership is going up. So sorry for the delay. We had sometimes we have things that come up in our lives. So appreciate the listens, and here we are today.
Yeah. Big fundraiser last night for me for one of our clients. So we had to postpone until Friday. My dad texted this morning too and said, "When's the podcast going to be posted?" So there's 4 listeners at least.
Hold us accountable. No, honestly, we've had a little tick up at the beginning of the season here. Actually, you don't check the metrics like I do. So thank you for all our new listeners. Appreciate the support. Continue listening. We will turn it around in the contest. We only have one bad week, but absolutely. So thank you, and thank you, Mark Roberts. He's out there for us. As you can see, I'm trying to change the mojo with our hat. This is the
there you go,
the Circa Million 3 hat. So just trying to change it up. You've got a note before we get to the NFL that we have another state that's legalized for betting.
That's right. Connecticut, welcome to the party. Mm-hmm. They have become the 27th state in our great union to take a legalized sports bet yesterday, 9:30. And I think there's a few others that have technically legalized, but they haven't actually taken bets yet. So that's why you're seeing the number 27 here. And I did see yesterday in the news that the governor had the honor of placing the first bet, and he took the Connecticut Sun last night to cover, I think, 7 or 7.5 in the WNBA semifinals. Did not look to see if he won or lost.
Oh, well, good for him. Good for him getting out there, encouraging the masses to do some betting. And now I don't know if New York is actually operating still. So you've got New York bracketed on New Jersey, which is actually the largest. Don't they have the largest handle in the country, even bigger than Vegas now? And then you got Connecticut on the other side. So New York is missing the boat here.
That's a great point. Connecticut probably will take away some of that New Jersey action, I would expect, just with the close proximity to the city.
Well, let's jump into the NFL action. Let's talk about just the general stuff and see where we can improve. We had actually there was a split, so that slowly but surely the favorites are coming in. We had an 8-8 split on the against the spread action last week. Road dogs still we're strong. Obviously at 6-5, which is atypical in normal weeks. We've got the unders at 11-5 though. Still, it's just dominating the unders, and then both teams split 8-8 ATS. So maybe a little bit of normalization, except for the unders, where it just seems like it's an underplay. Any idea why that would be?
I just have to suspect that it has to do with crowds. thinking that, I haven't seen any reports of offensive false start penalties or crowd noise coming into play in terms of a penalization factor, but you do have to think that the scoring has been suppressed a little bit, likely due to crowds. And also remember that there was one less preseason game this year. So it's still likely that the defenses might have an edge over those offenses thus far.
Right. I do think the penalties have something to do with it, although, if you watch some of the games like, Green Bay or whatever, defensive, pass interferences, but for the most part, some of these games are pretty muddy. I think a lot of it, like you said, lack of preseason has to have some factor. It just doesn't quite look like the NFL yet. I think we're going to get there this week and the next week, maybe week 4 or 5. That's usually when you start seeing teams hum along. So I don't know. We'll see what happens.
You also touched on the teasers last weekend. I think I heard this week that 13 out of the 16 games, if you had taken a 6-point teaser, you would have come home. And obviously the big loser in that was the Kansas City Chiefs, which busted up one of my teasers by losing to the Chargers. But besides that, there was a lot of teaser sides that came in last week.
That's right. And for those of you who don't remember teaser, maybe I explained it last week. Essentially, it's a kind of a mini parlay, right? You have to have 2 different elements to the bet. It can be a spread bet and a totals if you want. It could be in the same game or different games. I think, as I mentioned last week, Rivers is now doing same game, ability to tease in the same game, which is, I like those internal teasers personally, and that's what I won on both of them actually. So both the Rams and the Ravens. Whew, that was a close one, but they would have probably come in either way with the team. Well, no, they had to win, so so I got lucky on that, on your first point here. So that is a transition action. I didn't do it on purpose, but here we go. Highs for week 3: Justin Tucker, 66-yard field goal. Did you see the crow hop? Did you see the little hop to get things going?
Yeah, it definitely looked like he had practiced that before, because that little hop at the beginning gave him a little bit of extra oomph, similar to like an outfielder trying to throw someone out at home plate. And off the crossbar and in. I was watching it live and I jumped off my couch. It was amazing.
Well, obviously helped me win the bet, but I think it's just fascinating that game was interesting. We didn't end up going on that side. We talked about that game a little bit of a letdown spot, obviously, for the Ravens, but I mean, they were up in that game. They let your Lions, your local Lions, come back. And I mean, the Lions, we'll see. We'll talk about them this week. They're playing a little bit better, I think.
Yeah, I think my outcome from this game is that you got to move the Lions up a couple of pegs. Preseason, we all expected that they would be down near the bottom at 32 or lower if it was possible, but there are a number of teams that look way worse than the Lions. That's certain.
That's right. Another high was the Rams in general. I mean, the defense played fairly well. They gave up a lot of yards to Brady, but not a lot of points. And they just kind of dominated in this matchup against the Bucs. I mean, the Bucs were obviously favored. That's why, I really like the Rams in this one. And then Cooper Kupp, man. I mean, I don't even know if Stafford sees any other receivers out there. He is just peppering Kupp with targets. He's leading the league in receptions, yards, and TDs through 3 weeks.
Yeah, Kupp has been awesome, and Robert Woods in the slot too. Both those guys play the inside, and then you kind of have Van Jefferson and now Deshaun Jackson reincarnate on the outside, who had a big touchdown too. And the Rams definitely showed us something on Sunday against the Bucs. I certainly didn't expect them to run away with the division, and I still don't think that they will. But they have a big game this week against Arizona.
They do. We'll talk about that later. The other one is just another connection. It just seems like early in the season this happens. Rodgers to Adams. I mean, this is ridiculous. They don't really have a second receiver on this team. I don't even think Todd is that good at tight end. You're down. You give Rodgers the ball with 37 seconds, no timeouts. Got to get a field goal to win. No problem. He just, hits a guy for, I don't know, what was it, 30 yards the first 35 yards and 17 the next one, and he's in field goal range. He got 18 of the 30 targets in the game. That's a 60% target share action if you're doing math. And unfortunately, San Francisco, they couldn't cover this guy and they couldn't cover this spread, and they lost the game outright.
Yeah, I think the Niners are still going to be kicking themselves for letting Adams run free there on that last possession and probably throughout the game. But, I was disappointed. The one takeaway that I had in this game, and we were on the Niners, obviously, was I was supremely disappointed in the Niners' ability to run the ball. I think you and I both believed that was going to be their advantage in the game, and whether the outcome was that Green Bay played better on defense or the Niners just didn't perform like we expected on offense, there certainly was not an advantage in that area.
Right. Well, this is interesting for the Niners. We'll see what happens this week. They play Seattle. They've come out in the first half and played like garbage 2 weeks in a row. I mean, they stunk against the Eagles, but the Eagles couldn't get the ball in the end zone. This game, they were getting crushed at halftime. And to Jimmy G's credit, I mean, he played well in the second half.
Yeah.
He made a last minute drive that could have, won the game. So it wasn't really Jimmy G here. I like your point about the running game, but I think they're just not coming out ready to play for some reason.
True.
Let's go over the lows. You talked about the Chiefs. Wow. We'll talk about the hierarchy of rankings and power rankings, but the Chiefs D is just garbage. And I noted that's 4 straight games they've given 30+ points up in a row. They couldn't stop, Herbert, who played well in the game in that last second drive. And the Chiefs are not going to be able to win anything if they don't fix this defense.
Yeah, 32nd ranked now according to DVOA, and 31st when you consider the priors, so not much better. But you can't even say that one aspect, pass or run, is performing better than the others because they're both in the bottom of the league. And it's certainly something that they have to get corrected soon. Although I'm not certain that it is necessarily going to write them off as a bet on team. At some point, you're going to see these spreads get to a point where they're going to be in the playable range for the Chiefs. It's now 15 straight games, I think, that they have failed to cover but once. And at some point, they're going to be a bet on team. We just got to pick the right spot.
No, agreed. The Bears offense, wow. Fire Matt Nagy now, okay? I mean, we knew that we ended up not going to the the Browns. We should have gone there, but we knew that it was going to be a rough game for Fields in his first start, but not this rough. 1 net passing yard, 47 total yards of offense. They sacked him, Fields, 9 times. Nagy's game plan was just terrible, and I don't even know what to say. And he still says that Dalton's going to maybe be the starter when he's healthy. What is with this guy? But did you get to watch that game? Hopefully you didn't have to.
Yeah, I mean, it popped up on the Red Zone channel. We got home in time for it, but I didn't. Obviously, they didn't show it much on the Red Zone channel. It was just highlights of Myles Garrett in the backfield. I think the Browns had 9 sacks in the game. And we talked about the Justin Fields rushing prop, but he didn't even try to run. And I saw reports that apparently they have an offense for Fields. I mean, where is it? Did they just not use it last week, or what's the story?
Well, when I watched the game, of course, in Chicago, you're blacked out to watch any other game during that hour. At least we were yet last week, and it was just sad. Couldn't see the Chiefs-Chargers game, even the end. But no, effectively, it was a lot of drop back passing, and unfortunately, the offensive line's so bad. As he was in his 5th step of the drop, the guy was already on him. And it was, I just expected more rollouts, maybe more kind of planned draws, running the ball, and something creative. I don't think Nagy knows how to use them, but also, I don't know. I mean, we know the Bears. Jason Peters, for once, go back to retirement. Go back fishing. The guy was like a turnstile. I mean, Myles Garrett was just abusing him. It was sad.
Yeah, definitely.
Our last one is Big Ben. We talked about this last week. We definitely have reiterated this week. He's done. You got to bench him. I don't know who they have. They're going to put in
Haskins. Dwayne Haskins.
Or they're going to put it. What's the other new? Mason Rudolph.
What is it?
I think Mike Trelevin could definitely start for the Steelers, your cousin at this point. And he's good, actually, he's a good thrower. But, I mean, Ben is garbage. He's falling around all the place, throwing bad interceptions. He had one good throw in a game that I saw on the highlights. It's done. Ben, mail it in.
Yeah, and now they don't have any receivers, too. Johnson's hurt, and Juju Smith-Schuster is hurt. So Claypool is like the only named receiver that they have who can suit up now. And, yeah, this is bad news for the Steelers. They're certainly going to be in games still if they rely on their defense, but they're not going to be a team that's going to put up points.
Right. All right, you've noted a couple injuries as we've gone, but Christian McCaffrey is still out this week, it sounds like. You've got, Chuba? What's his name?
Chuba Hubbard. Yep.
Chuba Hubbard, right. So he's going to get the playing. And then Quentin Nelson, is he going to play? I mean, he's day to day.
Yeah, I'm reading reports that expectations are that Nelson is going to go on the offensive line. I heard earlier in the week that Darius Leonard was having an issue, but he's not on the injury report, so I'm not sure what the issue there is with him. But I mean, the Colts was another low that we didn't have up there. I think the Colts offense was supremely disappointing on Sunday in Tennessee. They moved the ball again, but this has to be one of the worst red zone offenses in the league.
Right. You just mentioned Tennessee. I actually read today A.J. Brown and Julio Jones are both ruled out for the game.
Jets.
So, I know you already got your Jets. You're ready to go. I mean, you talked about it in the text, so we'll see. When we get there. I mean, maybe I can get on again. I obviously won the Survivor pick, because they were terrible. The Jets were also terrible, but we knew they were terrible. So let me go over my power rankings. We're maybe one more week away. Next week, I'll probably use the Wegs index to try to figure this out a little bit better. But I did put the Rams at number one, Ashton. I'm not sure what your DVOA says, but the performance was great. They've looked good through 3 weeks. I'm not going to be all over Matthew Stafford for MVP, but he certainly is delivering, and McVay is having fun with that offense. I've got the Bills at 2. Okay, it's arguable. Their defense may not be, what it was a few years ago, but it seems to be better this year. I think that's the biggest difference. Obviously, you got to keep everybody healthy on that team. I got the Bucks at 3, which, whatever. They lost to the Rams. They're really good. Their defense isn't playing as good, though. And then I got the Cowboys at 4. I probably should have put the Browns at 4. I think the Browns are actually better than the Cowboys. We'll see if they, what happens. But what do you think of this list compared to your DVOA and your own opinions?
I think you have a good list here. I don't know that I would argue with any of these teams' inclusion in the top 5. I do still have a little bit of questions about the Cowboys' defense, although supremely improved after week 1. No doubt about that. And I agree that the Browns are ascending, and I like the Bills team as well. I think that the Chiefs are still worthy of conversation piece here. And I also think that the Ravens are too. They've had a slow start out of the gates, and they certainly are sputtering with all their injuries. But if the Ravens can get a few key pieces back, I think they're going to be in the picture as well.
I'm sure our proxy would argue that the Raiders should be in the top 5. He does send us that banner for Derek Carr for MVP, who's played well. But again, that one took another overtime win. These guys are pulling it out of their butts a little bit. So with DVOA, we got the priors. So you've got Bucks, Chiefs, Bills, Rams, Ravens, and Packers, actually. Okay.
Yeah.
So interesting. We'll see how that flips next week for DVOA too.
I think it's after week 5 is when they completely remove all the previous year stats.
Gotcha. Well, let's jump right into it. Let's try to get back on the horse, man. I mean, obviously, everybody should know we went 1-4 last week, so we got to do better. But we had a good start. We'll see what happens. There's a guy out there. We'll talk about the contest later. Who's 15-0. So I mean, actually the quarter ends this week. Actually, I think we might have misspoke a week or 2 ago. You're so right. We're done with 4 weeks, and then there'll be a 5-week section next for the next quarter. So we obviously know what happened last night. Jacksonville got the cover with the 7.5 in the contest with the Bengals. They actually look like they're going to be outright winner. Your guy Trevor Lawrence played really well in the first half.
Yeah, they were sprinkling in some RPO plays with Lawrence, and he was really running the ball with good ability last night. I think he smashed his rushing yards prop, which was an easy winner. And Justin Robinson getting back into carrying the ball is obviously a huge plus for this team. It's very clear that Urban Meyer's plan to bring in these old, Etienne never played, but the older running backs are certainly not the solution for the Jags.
Right. But yeah, I mean, Burrow did come through in the end, though, and obviously won the game. That was a big teaser leg we talked about. So that 6-point teaser thing, they do cover the teaser as well. So for people who put that out and Survivor, there were like 35 people that picked the Bengals in my Survivor pool. And I'm like, whew, that would have been nice to get those knocked out.
I had the Bengals last night too in Survivor. That was a nice one, but very stressful.
I bet. Well, let's go into some of them. This one's tough. I mean, I had on my card first. I don't know if my stomach can take it. Washington, one of my darlings, they have just sucked on defense. They go to Atlanta. They opened up as, actually, I don't know if this is right, but 2.5-point favorite for Atlanta, I guess, initially. 47.5-point total. In the contest, it's flipped all the way over. It's 1 point for Washington as a favorite, 48-point total. I think Rivers had it at 1.5, so that's about right. Um, Man, I originally I put Washington. Originally, I love that defensive line.
Hmm.
But as many people are talking about in VSiN, Chase Young is not going towards the quarterback. He's just running past the quarterback every time.
Yeah.
What do you think about this game?
Mike Palm loves saying that, doesn't he?
Yes.
This number is moving on the move. I think I'm looking at the screen here. Bet Chris, which is probably one of the sharpest books in the world, is showing a 2.5 on the football team. So
Really?
some indication of where this number might be heading. And I think it's the right side. I do.
Yeah.
I saw in your notes that you liked Washington, and I think I'm going to be right there with you. That I mean, I believe, let's start with the offense. I believe that Heineke is a better quarterback today than Matt Ryan is. And um, we can leave out the Washington defense for the moment. I think that the football team is going to have some success through the air with Terry McLaurin on
Okay.
Sunday. And I think that there could be some points scored in this game by the football team. And if we get anything plus out of the defense, that would just be an additional boon to the handicap.
I read that Curtis Samuel might play,
Yep.
another weapon. I'm not really worried about the offense. Washington's offense has been okay.
Hmm.
It's just the defense is. And they played some good offenses, okay? I mean, they've definitely
Yeah.
obviously played the Bills, you're not, whatever, it happens. But we'll see. I obviously put it on there, so I have to turn off my emotional brain and follow the intellectual side and say, look, it's the right side. It's just they've hurt us. Are we 0 for 3 on them this season or 0 for 2? We keep picking them.
I think it's just twice, if
Yeah,
with my memory. Yeah, we left him off the card in week 2.
right.
But I'm looking at DVOA here, and Atlanta has the 32nd ranked offense too. So certainly a different caliber of opponent for that defensive team
Right.
this week. I mean, the Bills in week 3, the Chargers in week 1, two difficult opponents. You could argue that they probably gave more to the Giants than they really should have. But
Right.
I think this is a get right spot for the football team. I
Yeah.
do.
Okay. Let's put it in yellow, even though we probably should put it in green.
And it's a good number too. I mean,
Oh,
I was pleasantly surprised to see it only at 1 when it came out.
it's sliding our way, so that's good. So the next game is, the beloved, the Bears, who you probably heard also purchased Arlington Racetrack. So it looks like they'd be building a new stadium out in the burbs, which I'm actually all for because the debacle of Soldier Field is just tragic.
Yeah.
But that's an aside. Detroit is coming in as a 3-point dog in this one. They opened as a 5-point dog with a 47-point total. Total's all the way down to 42.5. Man, there's only one way to go here is with the Lions, right?
Yeah, definitely. This number opened at 6. Well, I guess that was a look ahead technically from
Mm,
last week, but the money has been pouring in on the Lions. I think that there's some 2.5s that are showing up across the board too. So to see this number at 3 still in the contest, um, yeah, just to confirm, there's a lot of heavy juiced +3s on the Lions available, and some books are already at 2.5. So I think that there is some pretty significant value when you're looking at the Lions side +3 here. Although I will caveat that by saying that I've not heard any reports of Justin Fields being named the official starter, and I think the bet on the Lions is stronger with Fields under center as opposed to a flip back to Dalton or even Nick Foles for that matter. What do you
sure.
think?
No, I think you're right. I think that we talked about it. Nagy doesn't know how to handle Fields. Fields at this point, and obviously he could become a good player. I'm not saying he's not, but given the circumstances, I don't think he's the right guy. You got to get the ball out quick. You got to be able to read the defense quickly, get the ball out quick because the line is cratering in seconds. So I thought that his mobility would help him, but in
Yeah.
effect, and I mean, the Lions don't have the same pass rush that Cleveland does, of course, but I think that when you look at even with the Bengals, who have they have a decent defensive line.
Hmm.
Almost playing good, getting the ball out, getting rid of the ball, finding his reads. So it's more of a reading situation than an athletic situation. So maybe we'll pick Detroit. I don't know if I can pick against them. We'll see what happens.
Fair.
Here's your favorite. Tennessee is going to the Jets. The Jets, come home. They got destroyed in Denver. They opened as a 3.5 point dog at home, 47 point total. I'm not sure when that was set, but it's all the way up to 7 in the contest for the Titans. But I think this number is crashing, isn't it?
The
44.
total, you mean?
Is it still 7.5? I thought it was. Isn't it under 7 now?
Oh, the spread. Yeah.
Yeah, my
You
bad.
mentioned the total too. There's a couple of 6.5s. Yeah, still one or two remaining sevens, but again, really heavy juice if you want to play the Jets. So there's also a couple of sixes showing. So definitely a number of that is trending downwards. And you touched on it, but the total is crashing too. And I think that has everything to do with the missing of Julio Jones and AJ Brown for the Titans.
Right.
I think this is a game that's going to be extremely low scoring given the move on the total, which makes the 7 points even way more valuable in this one with the home Jets. And I think my handicap is really just about those two wide receivers, and
Hmm.
add in the fact that the Jets' run defense is above average. They're 13th ranked per DVOA, only
Okay.
giving up less than 4 yards per carry and 111 rush yards per game. So I think that they're going to be loading up to stop Derrick Henry. And outside of that, you're going to be looking at Tannehill probably trying to get the ball to the Indiana receiver. I forget the guy's name now. Nick Keena Ward or something. Anyway, somebody
Hmm.
you've never heard of. And the Jets offense has been putrid, no doubt about it. I don't think that there's any way you can paint them in a good light, except for the fact that they've faced off against three of the top five defenses in the league so far. They had Denver's third ranked, New England is fourth, and Carolina's fifth. So I think
Hmm.
that you can't write off Zach Wilson quite yet, and I expect that against the 31st ranked Tennessee Titans defense is a get right spot.
So you were advocating for the Jets in the contest. I just want to make sure I understand this right.
Jets +7 is my pick.
So just so our new listeners know, action was on the Jets probably like 2/3 of the games last year, and of course didn't come in. But I don't disagree with you here. I mean, obviously last week I thought they were going to be a good pick with 10.5, but the Broncos just steamrolled them, and it was ugly. So I can maybe get on board with you here. Do you think they have a chance to win the game?
Yeah, I definitely would advocate a small money line. In fact, I think that there's a pretty wide range of outcomes in this game. Either you're going to see the Jets win it, or I think Tennessee could potentially blow them out. In either case, I still think that there's value on the 7.
Yeah, I mean, plus 250 money lines, juicy. So,
Mhm.
okay, let's put a yellow. I might be
Okay.
able to get into the Jets. We're going for some really high level teams in the football team, the Lions, and the Jets so far.
Well,
Uh,
hey, I mean, I texted you last night. The Jaguars were 0-3 ATS, and they
oh,
got their first cover. Jets
mhm.
are also another 0-3 ATS team. So it could be a week to take those nasty looking dogs.
Well, they got to come in at some point, right? All right, well, let's go to the next one. The Browns travel to Minnesota. Browns open as a 2.5 point favorite, 51 point total. It's really right there now in the contest. Browns favored by 2 on the road, 51.5 point total. Kind of a tough spot here. I think Cleveland's really good. Minnesota's playing very well. They finally got their win. They got the money line for me, and obviously our pick
Nice.
in the contest. So the question I have for you is, when you look at the Cleveland defense, obviously they look great against the Bears, but this is a Minnesota offense that's humming along, and they've got what they can do. Is it? I mean, 51.5 might actually be a low total. Uh, do you think Minnesota has a chance to upset this situation?
Mm, I do think that the Minnesota Vikings probably carry the heaviest home field advantage in the league, and definitely this year with the fans back in the stadium. And so I think that this number might be a little bit a little bit shaded to the Browns, because I think if you're looking at 3 points for home field advantage, when you compare this, that would say that the Browns are 5 points better than the Vikings.
Right.
And last week we saw the Browns only laying 7 to Chicago. And doing a little bit of a comparative theory, I think we could easily say that the Vikings are much better than the Bears.
Yes.
And so I do think that the number, there might be a little bit of value on the Vikings, but I'm just not so certain that their offensive line is going to be able to hold up against the Browns pass rush. And that gives me a little bit of pause in this one.
Okay. Well, we can stay away. I did initially put Cleveland as a pick here. I do
Hmm.
think just a really good football team, and they seem to be playing great. And now that they're going to play lesser opponents, they started off with a pretty tough, first couple games, and now they're turning the corner against lesser opponents. So,
Right.
like, let's talk about your team, the Colts, going to Miami. The Miami opened as a 2.5 point favorite, 45 point total. It's the same in the contest, 2.5, 42.5 point total. Yeah, obviously, Brissett played well down the stretch in that game to bring them to overtime, but they lost to the Raiders. But it was really a great game there. The Colts, they haven't done it. They had that one
Mhm.
game against the Rams where they kind of held steady and almost had a chance. They just couldn't get it done in the red zone like you talked about. Carson Wentz, I guess, isn't the answer. I'm not really sure. It's early. Do you like the Dolphins in this spot?
I wrestled with this one, and I'm really not sure that I'm ready to back the Dolphins as a home favorite here.
Right.
I They gave their hearts last week in Las Vegas, and they came up short in overtime, as you know. And I think that this could be a little tough going back to the Miami Heat. I mean, you obviously can argue that Indianapolis has to play in it as well, but um, I think that I definitely would lean only to the Dolphins. Let me say that for sure. I have no interest in playing the Colts in this game, this, with their red zone woes, especially. I do think that there's some telling line moves with the total going from 45 down to 42 and a half.
Hmm.
The bettors and odds makers are expecting a pretty low scoring game, so there could be
Right.
some variance there. But at 2.5, I think it's only a one way look to the Dolphins. What do you think?
I think so too. I mean, I originally put the Dolphins down because I think they're the better football team, but
Hmm.
I hear you. I mean, that might be just kind of a blasé kind of thing. It's not like they're going to blow out the Colts. They're not that type of team. So it could be a really dicey fourth quarter sweat if we took the Dolphins.
Yeah. They Just looking at the red zone defense for the Dolphins, they're allowing 66% red zone scoring touchdowns, which is good for 19th in the league. So a little bit below average, but I think that's going to be the story of this game, whether or not the Colts can punch it into the end zone or not.
That's right, right. I know Jonathan Taylor was on the injury report this week too. I don't know if he probably practiced today. I'm not sure. Well, let's go to the next game. We'll get past that one for now.
All right.
One of the marquee games in the NFC, kind of underrated. Carolina comes in at 3-0 against Dallas. Dallas is a 5.5 point favorite on the opener, 50.5 point total. It's 4.5 in the contest, same total, 50.5. I mean, let's face it, coaching advantage goes to Matt Rule. By the way, I didn't mention this. I put a little coach of the year future bet,
Nice.
Matt Rule. Why not? I think he was
I
like
like
20
it.
something. So might as well put that in. But Dallas is really good. I mean, I've been talking about this for 2 years. They got great talent. Their defense has improved. Dan Quinn obviously has got a better system than whoever they had before him. So 4.5 is a kind of a big number. You know what I mean? I don't know if I can
Yeah.
go on Carolina, but I don't think I can back Dallas with this number.
Yeah. I mean, I think that it's been quite evident that Carolina has been taking a serious boost in the rankings, DVOA. You can see any sort of power rankings in the league and see that the Panthers have taken a rise.
Mhm.
Um, but I personally had this one circled as a spot to go against them. I think
Mm.
the caliber of opponents that they've played so far this year has been really, really nice. And they got the Saints on a week where it turns out they were missing seven of their offensive coaches during the
Right.
game. I think that was a huge factor in that outcome. And now they're getting the Cowboys, which is one of the best offenses in the league. And Dak has been otherworldly. And the receipt, Zeke and Tony Pollard is now backing him up. And I think that this is a number that the Cowboys could cover with
Okay.
pretty regularity, especially at home. So
Do you
I
think
would like to
this
consider
will
the
be a
boys.
contrarian play in the contest?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, I certainly think that the Carolina, the way that they've come out of the gates, you're going to get a awful long look by our competitors on that side with the 4.5 points. And I do
Hmm.
think that Dallas will be less picked than Carolina.
Okay. Let's put a yellow. I could be talked into it. I do think Dallas is really good. Yeah, I've been on them. I was on them last year when they stunk, but I think that they maybe are putting it together. Despite McCarthy, he still sucks. So still get on a soapbox for that.
It is tough to back McCarthy. That's certainly a negative. You could say that every week about the anti-Cowboys handicap.
Exactly. Any coach. Okay, so let's do the next game. Giants going to New Orleans. New Orleans is going to play at home, right? Is this what I'm
Yes,
hearing?
it's in the Superdome. Yeah, I was surprised to hear that too.
So they open as a 6.5 point favorite, 47 point total. The total's all the way down to 42. In the contest, it's 7.5, which is always sticky with
Yeah.
that hook. It's a stay away for that. I do think the Saints will win the game, and obviously, coming home, there could be a lot of things, but it could work to your handicap. You said that a lot of times, when people are on the road a bunch, that first game's kind of rough, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the first line I have in my notes here, that Saints are finally back home after being away for probably like 6 or 7 weeks when you count
Yep,
the time that they were practicing in Texas too before the season even started. And
yep,
now they're finally back home. Although I've heard some people discount that in the NFL because you're talking about a full week of being home. It's not like the
yep,
NBA where you return on a long road trip and you have like 12 hours to take care of your personal shit. So
yep, yep, yep.
I respect that. But I think the bigger concern I have with the Saints is their offensive line. They're going to be without two starters this week. Teron Armstead is out, and center Eric McCoy. And I think that the Giants defense is going to be able to hold down Wimpy Jameis. I mean, they put up a ton of points against the Packers, but that was with short fields.
Hmm.
Their offense has been super unimpressive.
Right.
Um, 4.3 yards per play, which is good for 29th, and 234 offensive yards a game, which is 31st ranked. And I think this is going to be a low scoring game, which gives way, way more value to the Giants plus the hook.
7.5. Are you advocating for another stinky dog here?
Yeah, I do like the Giants quite a bit. I was considering putting in a Giants and Jets parlay, actually.
The New York parlay. I love it. I don't know if I can get on board with this one. Seven and a
Okay.
half is a great number. It's a great number. There's no
Mhm.
question. You bet the numbers. That's the number you want. I just don't know. I don't know if the
The
Giants
question
score against this defense.
That's the question, whether or not they can score, because New Orleans defense is awesome. They're second ranked,
Yeah.
and you got to have Daniel Jones at least put up 10 points probably to have a shot at
We
covering
saw
this game.
last week. They scored a defensive score. They got another interception. They got him in the red zone. I mean,
Yeah.
the defense is elite.
Mhm.
So
I do think though that the Giants are covering this game more than 53% of the time, and that's winning money long term.
I got you. I got you. All right, let's go. Kansas City Chiefs going to Philadelphia. Man, the Chiefs, they have just won 12-1 in their last 14. Maybe you have even more, maybe won 13-1 now. But now they're favored on the road at Philly. Opener 6.5, favorite, 53-point total. In the contest at 7, 45, 44, or 54.5 point total. Actually, know one of a coworker was going to this game on Sunday in Philly. I can't back the Chiefs, bro. I can't do it now. They got to show me something. I can't keep doing it. It's just painful because I really love the Chiefs. I love Mahomes. I don't know if I can back the Eagles either. They got housed. I mean,
Yeah.
destroyed them. And I felt bad for. It looks like they can't protect. And the Cowboys' defense is obviously better than the Chiefs. Like it's easy to say. Anybody can see that.
Mhm.
But they couldn't protect Hurts. Hurts was running for his life a little bit. Made some plays actually in that game, but just not enough. I mean, where are you on this game?
Yeah, I agree. I would consider putting in the Chiefs as a really, really contrarian play,
Sure.
although I'm very interested to see what the numbers end up at. I was really hoping to see 6.5. Honestly, I personally have them bet them already at 6.5,
Hmm.
and I think this is an opportunity for them to bounce back against an Eagles team that did not play well on Monday night. And really, we talked about it before then. The Eagles didn't play well the week before against the Niners. Remember how low yardage output they had?
Yep.
And I heard all week about how Miles Sanders had 2 carries for 26 yards, and then inexplicably they just stopped trying to run the ball against the Cowboys.
Right.
So um, certainly not a good game plan from Sirianni and company. But I definitely am not interested in the Eagles, and if I can't get you on the Chiefs side, I think we should pass.
Yeah, I think we should pass.
Fair.
Yeah. All right, here we go. So this is the big number. Houston is going to Buffalo. Buffalo's at home, 16.5 point total, or 16.5 point favorite at home, 48 point total. In the contest, it's right there, 16.5, 47 point total. I mean, what can I say about this? Davis Mills, he was not terrible on Thursday night last week, I guess, but too big of a number, bro. I know that Houston. This is like a couple years ago when Miami was big double digit, dogs. I can't get on board there, so I got to stay away from this.
Yeah, I agree. This is only one way look for me. It would have to be Houston with the points.
Mhm.
But I think that Buffalo certainly could cover this game if they wanted to. The tough spot that they're in is a big game next week. I can't remember the opponent, but I think this might be a game where Buffalo is happy to sit back in the second half and just coast to a victory. So I
Right.
think if we're playing it, it's got to be Houston, but I'm happy to pass.
Yeah, too many points. Okay, let's get to some more marquee games. We've got Arizona going to the Rams. This is a battle of unbeatens in the NFC West. Rams open as a 4.5 point favorite at home, 50 point total. That's almost where it's at, although total's ticked up to 55. Kind of makes sense. 40, they're still 4.5 point favorites at home. I originally put Arizona on here because I think that it's be a letdown spot for the Rams, but I've heard a lot of data saying that the Rams own this matchup,
Mhm.
first of all, and secondly, that I mean the Rams are just a better football team. So curious to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, I took a look ahead with Arizona +6, and I think it opened right around there 5.5. I guess it says on our screen, but it's been bet down to 4.5. So there's definitely money coming in on the Arizona side.
Right.
But you are correct that the Rams have won like 8 of the last 8 meetings. So uh, and all of those were a cover except for one lone push in 2019 in December when the Cardinals lost by 7.
Right.
So, although, I mean, definitely different teams. The
Sure.
Rams have a new defensive coordinator this year, and I think that we talked about it last week. They haven't been quite as good as they were in years past, and I think that the Cardinals are live in this game. I
Mhm.
do. If I were to bet it, I would be looking that side. 4.5 certainly is not as good as 5 or 6, which would be more valuable. But I do agree with the total move up. I think that there's going to be a lot of scoring in this game on both sides.
Right. It's going to be one of those games, and that's why I'm a little worried about the 4.5, just because.
Hmm.
I mean, late score. I mean, if I was taking the Rams, that is, they Arizona could get a back door easily, but this is going to be one of those games that Murray's just going to start throwing it all over the yard, and I mean Hopkins is a little dinged up, his ribs
Yeah.
are dinged up, but AJ Green had a good game last week, so I'm happy to stay away unless you're really for Arizona here.
Do you think that Jalen Ramsey is going to be locked in on Hopkins, or do you think he'll travel due to the injury a little bit?
Well, I guess we'll see. Everything I read was he was going to lock into Hopkins, and Hopkins is still getting targets, but he was ineffective last week. 21 yards receiving, only got 3 catches, so maybe they don't need to.
Hmm.
Um, but again, who are they going to put him on? Maybe they zone him up. I'm not really sure. I mean, against Murray, I'd imagine the best route is to blitz the hell out of him and just get rid of the ball quickly because if he's either got a zone or even if he has man to man with not that many people coming, he can just run. So I mean, you're benefiting from his quick start to the season.
Yeah. Last week I tried to get really cheeky with Hopkins' injury and put a yardage prop over on Rondale Moore, and he had like
Mm,
one catch in the game. I couldn't believe that they didn't use him more often. So I'm
yeah,
kind of hoping that Rondale will have a bounce back week for the Cards.
yeah, it was all AJ Green last week. He had a big game. Well, let's talk about the other NFC West matchup. Seattle is going to San Francisco. San Francisco obviously lost it in home against Green Bay. They opened as a 3.5 point favorite at home, 50 point total. The total's up to 52, but we get the solid 3 in this one, which is actually a lot nicer than the hook. Um, I'd probably be on San Francisco here. I'm trying to figure this line out because Green Bay is definitely better than Seattle, right? I mean,
Hmm. Hmm.
about the DVOA, but I would just say off what I've seen, this is a kind of a curious line to me.
Yeah.
Maybe just because of divisional rival, they're thinking that 3 points is where it should be. But I mean, Green Bay had the hook, and they're a better team.
Yeah. I- I've heard a lot of people giving an edge to the Seattle side in this game, and I can't quite figure it out either. I don't know if it's just a matchup history. kind
Right.
of thing, or because the Seahawks defense to me has been really underwhelming, especially in the second halves. I think I heard a stat earlier this week that Seattle and on offense hasn't scored in the third quarter yet this
Mhm.
season.
Right.
So, and you certainly would expect that the Niners are going to bounce back. My only hesitation is just the performance of Jimmy G this year. He
Right.
did look good in the second half, but before that and the week before, it just looks like he is not interested in getting hit, and their offense just hasn't been the same that they have in years past.
And they haven't run the ball that great.
Mhm.
In Seattle, they should be able to, but hmm, there's another stay away spot for us.
I don't know. I think it's one that I certainly would like to do a little bit more research on. You could definitely potentially talk me into San Francisco being at home. Although I think this is a matchup where the road team has historically done well, so that might be part of the handicap where you're hearing about the Seattle side.
Right, right, of course. Okay, here's an intriguing matchup, which will be a lively discussion. So Baltimore goes on the road to Denver. Denver's played nobody, the three worst teams in the league. Baltimore opened as a 1.5 point favorite, and then the total 45.5. It's really right about that, but now it's flipped around. You're listing the Broncos being the favorite now.
Yeah, Broncos -1 in the contest, and I think that's pretty. Oh
Consistent.
no, no, here on my board, the Ravens are -1 in most spots.
That's what I thought. So the contest is saying the Broncos, and then it's flipped over to the Ravens, which is a little bit strange. I mean, no, it's not a huge line movement when you're close to the zero, but I've heard a lot of things, man. I mean, there's a lot of injuries for Baltimore. Obviously, Denver's got a really good defense. And last week, I mean, Baltimore looked bad. So I don't know which way to go on this one. Originally, I had put Baltimore even when they were favored by a 0.5 point or something. But now I don't know where to go with this game.
Yeah, I'm just pulling up the point spreads here to confirm that I wrote it incorrectly. Yeah, it's Broncos -1.
Hmm.
I I like Baltimore in this game. Would like to see the Broncos prove it this week, and I'm ready to put my money behind it. I think this is another team who has really benefited from a weak strength of schedule.
Very weak.
Um, and I think that Lamar Jackson and his offense is going to be ready to play against those ends this week in Denver. And on the other side, I have concerns about Denver's offense and their injuries. They lost Jerry Jeudy to an ankle injury, and then last week KJ Hamler went out. And
Mhm.
now, really, the only receiving threats they have on the outside are Tim Patrick and Cortland Sutton.
Right. Right.
So I think that this is definitely going to be another low-scoring game, but I give the edge to Baltimore, and I would consider putting them on our card.
You're going against Teddy Covers.
Mm. He's a fave, though.
That's true, but I think he covers it 75% regardless or something, right?
That
Uh,
sounds right.
yeah, so I think we should definitely put Baltimore in yellow. I mean,
Okay.
again, my quick take was Baltimore's going to win this game,
Mhm.
but I don't know. I mean, they
Hey,
obviously they got to play better than they did last week. I mean, otherwise they're going to lose. But Denver, I played 0-9, 0-9 teams so far. Oh, 3
yeah,
0-3 teams. That's incredible.
and
Good.
several rookie quarterbacks.
Mhm.
Um, the only other thing I'll mention is just Baltimore has certainly got to be a little bit. They had two really emotional games the last 2 weeks. The 66-yard field goal, and then the week before that was the comeback against the Chiefs. So
Mhm.
you got to figure, even though they're professionals, they're certainly coming off of two games that were very draining.
Right, and they're going to Mile High, which is
Yeah.
it's an altitude game. It's an altitude game. I get it. I went to school out there. I know how it can affect you in the fourth quarter. So we'll see. I mean, but I'd like to pick a team that's not a total stinky dog
Yeah.
on the card this week. We'll see.
And
Yeah.
where do you rank Harbaugh versus Fangio in the coaching department?
I think Harbaugh's way better. I don't
Yeah.
think it's a question. I think some people are saying that, oh, we'll take Fangio over what's his name, Greg Roman or something. I'm like, what do you mean? I think Roman's super inventive and will come up with a plan. So we'll see. I mean, obviously, you know, Lamar Jackson has to play well, he has to throw the ball well.
Mhm.
So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I think we're on the same side here.
Okay.
All right, so Pittsburgh is going to Green Bay. We've already talked about Ben. We've already put the eulogy for Ben Ben Roethlisberger in his career. But Green Bay opened as a 6.5-point favorite at home, 47.5-point total. It's 6.5 in the contest, which I thought was a favorable number, and a 45.5-point total. I mean, this is screaming to take the Packers,
I
but is
know.
it super play, man? I mean, it's like we know the Steelers are going to play better at some point, right? So I know you want to go contrarian and take the Steelers, right?
You're right. Yeah. This
Read
is
this guy
such a
well.
trap.
I own this guy too well.
This game is such a trap. I was really hoping that it would be a 7, though. I have a 7 in here. And I think at 6.5, it certainly gives me some pause because it really is hard to imagine how the Steelers are going to score unless their defense puts up some points, which is possible. But I think this is just screams for a flat spot by Aaron Rodgers coming
Sure.
home after the big win in his hometown. And
Yep.
for that reason, I don't think you can line me up to bet on the Packers. I do think they're a very good teaser play this week. I would be
Yes.
surprised if the Steelers win the game, but you have already seen the total move down 47.5 to 45.5. And
Hmm.
everyone, the odds makers and bettors alike, are expecting low scoring, which gives more value to the dog.
Right, right. So would you put this on the card though?
I don't think so. Not at 6.5.
Yeah, it's too. Yeah, me too. When I saw the 6.5, I'm like, what? I was like shocked. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, take the pack. But I mean, it could benefit us if we stay away from the game and everybody takes Green Bay and then the Steelers come in or something. So
Yeah, no doubt about it. I'm going to be interested to see this split too, because you got to figure most people in the contest are sharp and they're
yeah,
going to see the landmine too.
right.
But maybe there will be a lot of Packers tickets.
Very similar line in this next game. The Sunday night game is Tampa against New England. Tampa opened as a 5.5-point favorite on the road, 15.5-point total. In the contest, it's 6.5. Consensus says 7. So in a 49-point total, how do you not take the Bucks here? I just don't understand this, Steve. You really think that Belichick's going to outwit the pupil here? I don't really see. I mean, 7, I guess, is a big number for a road team, but I mean, they've also got a rookie quarterback back there, and we talked about it last week. The Saints gamed them. They
Mhm.
destroyed poor Mac Jones. It's not that the Bucks are playing that great on D, but I don't see anywhere else you can take but Tampa in this game.
Yeah, I mean, this game is really going to rest squarely on the shoulders of freshman rookie quarterback Mac Jones because I don't think that they're going to run the ball. We've experienced that in Tampa games. And the Tampa secondary is just weak.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's throwing the ball on them. I think the passing DVOA is 17th, but I don't know. It seems like they're worse than that, and they keep getting thinner in that secondary too. So I, man, this is another trap, though. I really think that New England is going to be the sharp side in this game. I I definitely could see Tampa Bay covering, but I think that long term the value play is New England in this one. I I would feel much better if we tried to keep it off our card and just see what happens with the rest of the contest.
Okay.
Um, we could talk about it a little bit more, but I don't know. I'm going to be hard pressed to convince me to go with Tampa Bay. I think it's going to be really heavily picked, and if
Yeah.
we want to try and
Sure.
stick to like a contest strategy, I think
Mhm.
we're probably better off passing.
But just so you know, the teaser that I'm looking at is the Packers Bucks teaser.
Okay, I like
Both
it.
down to a half a point or maybe 1 point if it's the market is there. And I think they're both going to win those games. So
Yeah.
that's my
I do. I've already bet, and I really like the Mac Jones passing attempts.
okay.
37.5 was the number I saw at the latest. I think the only way that New England is going to stay in this game is if Mac Jones drops back and passes it 40 times.
Yeah. He's going to throw the short passes, beat the pass rush. Sure. It's the old Brady.
They lost James White last week, though, which is killer to their game plan, and I think that is going to be impactful on Mac Jones too.
For sure. All right, the last game of the weekend is Monday night. The Raiders are obviously going on the road, and they're playing the Chargers here. 3-point favorites for the Chargers at home on the opener. 53-point total. It's pretty much the same. The contest is 3 for the Chargers. 52.5-point total. Now, here's the couple of takeaways for this game. I do think the Chargers are better. I think they're a better football team. I liked them before the season. I think the Raiders are playing really well. Sorry, Dave. But the facts are facts. The Chargers are, I just think they're more talented, and in the end, the Raiders' luck is going to run out. But I think there's going to be more Raider fans in this stadium than Chargers, so it's almost like a home game.
Oh yeah. I think this is going to be like 90% Raiders fans on Sunday or Monday night. And
Mhm.
I I think I really like the underdog Raiders here in this game. You nailed the home field advantage, even though it's in LA.
Mhm.
And the Chargers' performance as a favorite has just been putrid.
Mhm.
Um, I Derek Carr's injury gave me a little bit of hesitation last week, but he played really well. Even after the early pick six, they bounced back and just dominated the Dolphins in the second half. And I think that Darren Waller and the receiving game, Ruggs, is going to step up in a big way. And I think that getting 3 here is important here because I think it's going to be a close game one way or another. And I like the Raider side.
Okay. You might be able to talk me in there. There's a divisional
Okay.
road dog again.
Yep.
We're advocating for it on almost all the games here, but okay, we can put it as yellow. I don't know if we have any clear-cut greens this week. That's not good.
I
But
labeled the first one as green. I don't remember the game, but we'll have to scroll back up here.
Washington,
Washington. Yeah.
the yeah the Pepto-Bismol game. We just got to see if they can do it. But when we look through the games here, just again, let's see. We've got Washington, on the road as a favorite, -1. Detroit as a dog, divisional road dog, +3. The Jets, a home dog at +7. Dallas being probably our lone favorite here at -4.5. And then we come all the way down. Well, Baltimore, they're actually favored right now, but they'd be a dog in this contest, +1.
Mm-hmm.
The Raiders +3. Interesting. Okay, well, we can maybe review some others too if we think that we're close. We definitely
Yeah.
have we can pick.
I think between now and Saturday, another look through the injury reports is definitely warranted. Something I have on my agenda. I believe that this week more than any of the first three, that injuries are going to impact a lot of these games. So we should monitor those practice reports.
Gotcha. Okay, well, let's review the contest. Obviously, there's one entry that's 15-0. The guy, he's being flown out to, staying in Circa this weekend, I heard. So he's,
Yeah.
able to cash his check, whatever it is, a lot of 150 grand, whatever it is, a lot of cash. And then there were 10 guys at 14-1. So it's likely the top three will come out of that, top 11 people. This is the end of quarter 1. We went 1-4 last week, dropped 8-7, which kind of sucks. We're down to 1,744th place, so pretty big drop, but could be worse. So we're still in the upper tier.
Yeah, it's still about 500, which I think is we can't ask for much more than that after 3 weeks. So we'll right the ship and get back going and see if we can build some momentum going into the second quarter.
Right, right. Okay, well, that wraps up this week. I wanted to give a big shout out to our guy, Optimus Prime, Artemis Prime. The dude
Oh
is
yeah.
he's got his birthday today. Told him to give him a shout out. He's too busy. He's gonna go out with the family. He's not let me take him out to Fork Shadows and get him drunk like I wanted to. So I owe him that at some point, and then we can have a good time. He's been our buddy on the trips and our good luck charm, and just one of the best guys around.
Yeah, happy birthday, Prime.
All right, guys. Well, follow us at Side Action Pod on Twitter. Follow me at Wegs Pool on Twitter and Instagram.
And follow me on Twitter at 31S Roberts.
All right. Good luck.